A kid from a small town in Washington state just heard his name called at the NBA draft. No big lights-out highlight reel moment. No lottery pick hype. Just pick number 43, and a whole lot of work finally paying off. Today we're talking about Tyler Bilodeau, and how a four-year college player who almost nobody outside college basketball circles was talking about just became Brooklyn's newest forward. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly who he is, why he fell to where he did, and whether this is actually a smart pickup for the Nets or just another second-round flyer. Let's get into it. So who is Tyler Bilodeau? He's a 22-year-old forward, somewhere around 6'8" to 6'9", depending on who's measuring. He's from Kennewick, Washington, and basketball and competition basically run in his blood. His mom played 4 years in the WNBA. His dad played professional hockey. So this guy didn't just pick up a basketball one day and get good. He grew up around what it actually takes to make it as a professional athlete. Around pressure, around discipline, around routines that most kids never see. He started his college journey at Oregon State, where he spent his freshman and sophomore seasons. Then he made the move to UCLA for his junior and senior years, playing under head coach Mick Cronin, who's known for developing players into more complete, smarter versions of themselves. And here's the thing about Bilodeau that scouts kept pointing to. He didn't explode onto the scene early and then plateau. A lot of prospects peak as sophomores and just kind of coast from there. Bilodeau did the opposite. Every single season, in every meaningful way, he got better. That kind of trajectory matters more than people give it credit for, especially in the second round, where teams are looking for reasons to believe in steady development rather than flashy, unreliable upside. Let's actually break down what he did on the court, because the numbers tell a real story. In his senior season, his final year at UCLA, he averaged 17.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, and shot better than 50% from the field overall. Those are starter-level numbers in a major conference. But the number that really jumps off the page is his three-point shooting. He hit over 46% of his threes that season. Not just good, that led the entire conference. Best three-point shooter, full stop, in one of the toughest basketball conferences in the country. And here's what makes it even more impressive. It wasn't a one-year hot streak. Look at the actual progression across his career. As a freshman, he was shooting right around 30% from deep, which is below average. Then it climbed to about 34% as a sophomore, then jumped to 40% in his first year at UCLA, and then 46% as a senior. Every single year, without exception, his shooting got sharper and more confident. That kind of year-over-year improvement is exactly what front offices love to see, because it tells a story about work ethic and coachability, not just raw talent. NBA teams aren't betting on him becoming a superstar. They're betting that the one thing he's clearly elite at, shooting the basketball, will translate. On top of the shooting, he also led his team in scoring in both of his seasons at UCLA. Opposing coaches had to build game plans specifically around limiting his touches. That's not a role player. That's a guy who was the focal point of a Big Ten offense. Now, here's the obvious question. If he was this productive, this consistent, why didn't a team grab him in the first round? Why does a player with these numbers fall all the way to pick 43? Two words explain almost all of it: age and defense. He's 22 years old, which in draft terms is considered old for a prospect. The NBA, especially in the first round, is obsessed with upside, with projecting what a 19-year-old might become at 25. Bilodeau doesn't offer that kind of mystery. Teams already know almost exactly what they're getting, because he's already a finished, mature product. There's less projection involved, and less projection usually means less excitement on draft night, even if the production is real. Then there's the defensive question, which is the bigger concern among scouts. He's not viewed as a lockdown defender at either forward spot. He doesn't have the lateral quickness to consistently stick with faster, smaller wing players who can attack him off the dribble. And he's not physical or strong enough yet to bang with traditional centers in the post or protect the rim. So he sits in this in-between zone, clearly skilled offensively, but a real question mark on the other end of the floor. That exact profile, elite shooter, shaky defender, is almost a textbook example of the kind of player who slides on draft night, no matter how good the shooting numbers look. So really, Every team that passed on him was making the same calculation. Is the shooting valuable enough to outweigh the defensive risk? Most teams said not yet, not in the first round. Brooklyn, at pick 43, decided the value was simply too good to pass up. So let's talk about why this actually makes sense for the Nets specifically. And not just as a generic late pick, Brooklyn is deep into a full rebuild. They already used their first 2 picks in this draft on a young, dynamic guard and a versatile, athletic forward. By the time they got down to pick 43, their need was pretty clear and pretty simple: shooting and front court depth that doesn't need the ball in its hands to be effective. Bilodeau checks both of those boxes almost perfectly. He's a pure floor spacer, the kind of player who can stand in the corner, knock down catch-and-shoot threes, and stretch opposing defenses just enough to open up driving lanes for younger, more athletic teammates. In a modern NBA built around spacing and three-point shooting, that skill alone has real value, even if everything else around it is still a work in progress. Look at Brooklyn's roster right now. It's filled with players under 25. This isn't a team trying to win 45 games next season. This is a team building patiently, developing talent, and trying to surround their core pieces with complementary skill sets. A second-round pick like Bilodeau fits that timeline perfectly. He's low risk and potentially high reward. If he develops into a reliable shooter off the bench, that's a real win for a pick this late. And if it doesn't fully work out, the Nets didn't sacrifice much to find out either way. Realistically, don't expect him to be in the starting lineup on opening night. Most players picked in this range begin the season with the team's G League affiliate, which for Brooklyn is the Long Island Nets. That's where he'll get consistent reps, work on his defense, adjust to the speed of professional basketball, and prove that his shooting translates against tougher, longer, more athletic competition. The team will be watching closely to see how quickly he can close that gap. If you want to actually judge whether this pick works out, here are the 3 things worth tracking over the next year. First, can he get his shot off consistently against NBA length and speed? College closeouts are simply not the same as professional ones. Defenders are longer, faster, and far more disciplined. If his shot still falls under that kind of pressure, that's a great early sign. Second, does he find some kind of defensive role he can actually survive in? Nobody's expecting him to become a stopper overnight. The bar is much lower than that. He just needs to avoid being an obvious liability that opposing teams can exploit on switches or in pick-and-roll situations. And third, and maybe most telling of all, does Brooklyn actually trust him with real rotation minutes during the season, or does he spend most of the year buried in the G League? That single decision, more than any stat line, will tell you exactly how the front office views his long-term ceiling. At the end of the day, this is what the second round of the draft is really all about. It's almost never about finding the next franchise superstar. It's about finding a player with one clearly elite skill, betting that skill is good enough to translate to the NBA level, and hoping you've uncovered a genuine rotation piece that other teams quietly overlooked. Tyler Bilodeau spent 4 years getting better every single season, without a single step backward. Now finally, he gets his shot at the highest level with the Brooklyn Nets. If you enjoyed this breakdown, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe for more draft coverage, and let me know down in the comments. Do you think Bilodeau actually sticks in the NBA rotation, or is he destined to be a G League guy long-term? See you in the next one.